Hey everyone, my name is Jeremy, and today we're going to be talking about Royal Mail and the weighted average cost of capital. So, some background on the Royal Mail Company. They're a former government enterprise that used to be run in a similar manner as the United States Postal Service. However, they recently underwent privatization via an equity offering to the public. And they are currently looking to emulate other private companies and calculate a weighted average cost of capital. And Hillary Hart has an upcoming meeting in which to discuss that with the upper level executives. She has tasked some of us to come up with a weighted average cost of capital. The weighted average cost of capital represents the hurdle rates projects must pass to deliver value to shareholders. This is the rate that IRRs of projects are compared to, and this is the discount rate used in net present value analysis. And this is calculated by taking the weight of debt times the cost of debt times 1 minus the tax rate, plus the weight of equity times the cost of equity. And one thing about the cost of capital, this is not set by management. This is set by investors slash the market rates for things such as the cost of equity and the cost of debt. The cost of debt represents the cost of new debt, not old debt. And you can find this by looking at the yield of current similarly rated bonds, in Royal Mail's case, triple B rated bonds, and the 10-year yield, and this would be the cost of debt. Now, the weight of debt is found by looking at the book value of the debt issue, current and long term, weighted the same. This can be found in the company's balance sheets. Now, the cost of debt calculations for Royal Mail, we have a total debt of 849 million British pounds and a cost of debt at 3.776% found in the 10-year corporate rate for triple B rated companies. Now, tax affected is 3.0208%. The cost of equity is calculated a little bit differently. It's calculated using the CAPM model, not the dividend model. And CAPM consists of the risk-free rate plus the beta times expected return on the market minus the risk-free rate, or beta times market risk premium. Now, looking at the weight of equity, you have to calculate the market value of the shares. This may not be found on the balance sheet. However, you can find the price of the shares and the amount of shares outstanding. And this will give you the correct weight. For the cost of equity calculations, we have a beta of 0.65, a risk-free rate of 2.03% found in the 10-year treasury yield, and a market risk premium of 5.8%. This will lead our CAPM model to be a cost at 5.8% cost of equity. Now, for total equity, we have the share price at 511 pence or 5.11 pounds times 1 billion shares, leading to a total equity value of 5.11 billion pounds. Now, in Kyle Brooks' analysis, he made a couple of mistakes. He used the dividend rate for the cost of equity and book value of the shares instead of the market value of shares. He also used interest payments to calculate the cost of debt, and he improperly separated current and non-current debt in the weighting. We take a look at some of the numbers here. He calculated a weighted cost of debt of 3.188%, contrasting our own calculation, and a cost of equity of 4.11%, which he found was the dividend yield. Now, for the weights of debt, we found 290 million and 559 million. That would be current and non-current debt. And for the weight of equity, we found the number of 3.846 billion pounds. For his weighted average cost of capital, he came up with 3.828%. Now, the correct calculations for the weighted average cost of capital using a total equity of 5.11 billion pounds and total debt of 849 million pounds and a total value or enterprise value of the company of 5.959 billion pounds. The cost of equity at 5.8% and the cost of debt 3.776%, a tax rate of 20%, we come up with 5.404% for the weighted average cost of capital. Now, we must compare this to other companies to establish almost like a benchmark when we evaluate any sort of projects. Now, public utility companies will have different costs of capital or different requirements, usually due to their funding sources, as opposed to, say, more publicly traded or market-based products. So first, we'll compare Royal Mail with National Grid, an electrical company in Britain, at 3.853% weighted average cost of capital, which is pretty significantly smaller than Royal Mail's 5.404%. Severn Trent at 3.136% is also in that similar range. However, when we look at more public companies like Tesco, we find the range to be very close. Now, interestingly, it is also very close to a telecommunications company, Vodafone, at 5.660%. Now, I think that mail and telecommunications are very similar businesses with high capital costs. It's tough to compete with all the infrastructure they already have in place and typically almost near monopoly level status in their own businesses. So, some conclusions. The correct weighted average cost of capital is needed to ensure proper value creation, delivering that value to shareholders. Now, and the cost of equity, you must use the CAPM and not the dividend yield, especially in the cases of companies that have recently gone public due to them not necessarily having an extensive dividend history. So you can't really draw any conclusions from that. Now, you must find the cost of new debt, not old. Otherwise, you might have either too high or too low of a number in the cost of debt because that fluctuates based on the market. Now, using the weighted average cost of capital separates government-run from private sector businesses due to their differing goals. Government-run businesses aren't necessarily about profitability, more so about delivering their service to the public. While in Royal Mail's case, they now must worry about their service to the public in delivering mail and also delivering value to shareholders. So thank you all for watching, and that's the end of my presentation, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.